What's up, guys? This is John Vickers, owner of Explosive Performance Academy and creator of the 5-Star Formula. And this is the Developing the Elite Athlete podcast. I got a very special guest on today. This is Rashad Phillips. Rashad, how you doing? I'm
Oh
happy to
man,
have you here.
I'm excited, John. We finally got a chance to get the schedules meshed, and now we're here. So I'm excited. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, absolutely. This is I'm excited about this. So um man, I grew up like a huge basketball fan. I was never a good basketball player, but I was a big fan, and
Mm.
I was for sure a fan of you. Like I was a guy I liked. I was a huge Michael Jordan fan, which I see him in the
Okay.
background there. But
This way.
yeah, right
This
over
way.
there. That over there. Um, but I also like seeing guys from small schools go crazy. And you were that guy that really stood out to me. And I was like, all right, like let's see where this guy goes. And then I mean, obviously you had a career playing pro ball. You
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, so we're here today. Let's I want you to give a little background about you and who you are and kind of where things are right now.
Yeah, I'll give it. I'll give the short version of it. Try to wrap it up that quick. Obviously, I was a kid that from the east side of Detroit, born and raised in Detroit. My father, Virgil Phillips, started a basketball community center back in 1979. And from then on, I was able to kind of hone my skills of being a basketball player under my father's tutelage in his program. And, I became a really good player quickly.
Mhm.
By the time I was 9 or 10 years old, I was, probably the best 9 or 10 year old, in the city of Detroit. Got a chance to be really good at the high school level, was all state, played at the University of Detroit, where I was an All-American and became the all-time leading scorer and All-American. My jersey was retired. Then I started my own training academy, following my father's footsteps and called Skills Unlimited. I actually have the shirt on right now, and kind of started that, and it became a huge stepping stone for kids in the Michigan area that went on to play college. Guys like Josh Jackson and James Young, and I mean the list goes on and on. And then I transitioned again. I started to start my own management company, consulting business, where I was able to kind of mentor and just guide kids on their journeys to becoming great players. And from then on, I turned myself into an author and wrote a book. So I'm always reinventing myself, and that's where we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean that's something we have to do, right? We always have to kind of reinvent ourselves. If we're the same, we're never the same. We're either getting better or we're getting worse, right?
Yes, yes,
So there's got to be some type of evolution there. And
yes.
I mean I've been following you for a while. Especially like when I see some of these social media posts that you put up about some of these guys that you were evaluating at one point.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about that. Like, were you an NBA scout, evaluation talent type guy, or what was?
So so for me in my book, so I wrote a book. Obviously, we'll talk about that, but I kind of share how I started to do evaluations. I started evaluating basketball players when I was like 6, 7 years old. So this is something that I've been doing for a long time, just naturally. My father used to evaluate players. He taught me how to do it. I used to write scouting reports on players like Chris Webber, growing up watching guys like that, Derek Coleman, Steve Smith, Lorenzo Orr. I mean, all these great players that came, Glenn Rice, Mark Macon, all these great players that come out of Michigan, Terry Mills, and so forth. So I was able to see those type of players at a very young age, and it really sharpened my eye to really understand how to evaluate basketball. That also helped me become a pretty good player myself, understanding how the game needs to be played, how it needs to be seen from a optic standpoint, and I kind of put that all together and became that. So here's a funny thing, and I never really say this, but I have to kind of point it out. So when Twitter first started, I don't know when it first started, but when I got my Twitter account, I didn't really know how to use it. And I was like, you know what? This Twitter thing doesn't make sense to me. So what I'm going to do, I don't know what to talk about. So I'm going to just put my scouting reports and evaluations on Twitter. And I started doing that like right around 2011, 2010, maybe earlier. I started doing evaluations on Twitter. And now when you look at Twitter now, everybody has a page of evaluating prospects and all that. So I like to give myself credit that I was probably the first person doing basketball evaluations on Twitter because I thought that's what it was for, and it wasn't.
No. Hey, I mean, you found a niche pretty quick.
I
And
stumbled on that. So, like, I'm going to take credit on stumbling on evaluating prospects on social media because that's what I thought it was for, and it wasn't.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's funny how that's evolved, right? Everything evolves to a certain point. Like I really started my business through Twitter. Like
Wow.
that's really how I started it. Like I was literally just reaching out to people on Twitter. I'm like, "Hey, you want to come train? You want to come try this out?"
Yeah,
I got a lot of answers, a lot of yeses, a lot of nos. Like
it
that's
happens.
that's really how I started it. So it's just funny how things just happen like that, right?
Like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously we just saw the Nuggets win the NBA championship here. And I mean it was a pretty crazy series, just seeing a lot of guys that weren't necessarily highly rated, highly drafted. You got a lot of undrafted guys. Like for you being able to evaluate talent, stuff like that, like were you surprised to see these teams playing in this and playing some of these guys playing as well as they did?
No. If you look behind me, that guy right there is on my poster. So I made this poster about 7 months ago.
Okay.
And when I picked the players for my poster, I was like, I want Jokic on my poster for my book because I believe he's going to win the NBA championship. Um, and so for me, watching a player like Jokic coming to the NBA, I was always high on Jokic. I always loved this game. I was like, man, this dude he just knows how to play basketball. He's not athletic. He's not the fastest. He doesn't jump the highest. But one thing about him is that his IQ is so high that he elevates everyone around him. Me being a historian of the game, Jokic, his aura and the way he lifted up his teammates reminded me a lot of Larry Bird. So I watched a lot of those Celtics teams as a kid because I'm from Detroit and Isaiah Thomas
Uh-huh.
is my hero.
Okay.
So I watched Isaiah Thomas as a kid, and so I watched Isaiah battle the Boston Celtics. So I was able to really hone in on the Celtics roster and how Larry Bird was able to uplift his teammates and make everyone around him better. And that's what Jokic reminded me of Larry Bird. And so I was not surprised that the Nuggets were there, that they were a number one seed all year, and that they won the championship. And I wasn't surprised at the Miami Heat. You look at the storylines of guys like Jimmy Butler, a guy that was, his upbringing and the way that he really had to earn everything. He kind of is an old soul,
Mhm.
so he earns everything. And the way the Miami Heat's franchise has been built on that hard hat mentality with UD, Coach Spoelstra, Kyle Lowry, and those guys, a couple undrafted dudes. I just felt like it was destined for both teams to really have a push.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's for me like so I grew up a football player, right? I grew up a football player, but I love basketball. I just was not
Yeah.
good at basketball. But I for me like basketball players are just so different athletically. Like it's just they're they're like if you're a 6'3" guard, like you're small at this point, right? And
Yeah.
it's funny, I just did this like I did some evaluations in terms of like performance, like sports performance stuff. So vertical jump, max vertical jump, three-quarter court sprint for this like pro workout type thing. And I felt small, and I'm 6 foot, 220 pounds. So I'm not a small human, but there were guys that were 6'7", 6'8", 6'9",
Oh
and
yeah.
I felt small there. But then one dude, he's 6'7", and he had a 40-inch max vertical jump, and I was like this is the highest I've seen anybody jump in person, especially being that big. Um, it's just basketball, like obviously that skill is extremely important, but the
Yeah.
size and the athleticism is just different. It's just different. Like you got freaks in every sport, but
Yeah.
basketball is just like a game of freaks.
Well, I think with basketball, unlike football, is that you have to have multiple skill traits in order to play it,
Mhm.
opposed to football where you only play one side of the ball. So if you specialize in defense, you're just going to play defense in football.
Yeah,
If you specialize in offense, you're just going to play offense. Basketball, you have to specialize at both sides because you have to play offense and defense, and it's
yeah,
back and forth, and then you have to. So there's a lot of skill traits that are mixed in with the athleticism that goes with it too. So that's why, for me, I mean, obviously it sounds biased, but I think basketball is the greatest sport because it's the greatest combination of everything put together in order to display and be great at it for the world to see.
I agree 100%. Like I said, I'm a football guy, but just basketball it's just so different.
Yeah.
It's just so
Yeah. I
different.
love football. I'm an NFL. Like I just absolutely love football. I play fantasy football. I'm every Sunday I'm in front of the TV watching every game and Monday night, Thursday night. Like I'm just we're a football household, but basketball is, obviously the sport that I gravitate to because my personal upbringing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you're a specialist, right? Like
Yeah.
you've put in you've mastered your craft, right?
Yes.
Like you put in
Yes.
so much time where you can just evaluate talent and see this talent and be like, okay,
Yeah.
like this
Yeah.
guy this guy's got it. Like,
Yeah, doesn't take me long at all. Like it takes me literally a minute. Like people send me film all the time, and I'll respond back, say, no, he's not it, or she's it, or he's it. And they like, you didn't even watch it. That's how I did it. I watched a minute of it. Well, how could you tell that quick? I've been doing it since I was, 7 years old. I'm
yeah,
45, so I've been doing this 30 years. So my eyes are trained.
yeah,
I know what it looks like.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's easy when you're doing something for so long, like you know exactly
Oh,
what it looks like, and
yeah,
you got it, you don't got it.
yeah, it's really simple.
For sure. For sure. For sure. So when when you are evaluating, what are you looking for?
Man, it depends on it depends on the player, the position, what I'm looking for, right? It depends on the size. Like if it's a 5'8" to 6'1", 6'2" player, 6'3" player, like there's a certain level of skill traits you have to be able to be special in that size range. So the size of the player dictates how I evaluate and how I can project their trajectory. So there's a player that's 6'4", between 6'4" and 6'6", they have to play a certain way. A player from 6'7" to 6'10" has to play a certain way from 6'11" on forth. So it's really, I kind of gauge it on size first because there's different ways you have to be able to dominate the game depending on your physical stature.
Mhm.
So everyone's not graded on the same ruler for me. And I
Okay.
think that's what differentiates me with a lot of evaluators is that I don't have a fixed measurement on how to evaluate a player. It's a case by case study.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have frameworks, obviously, but you it's all specific to that individual and
Yeah,
their
yeah.
size, their
Their
stature.
size and their position. So obviously, for me, I look at the game more than just five positions. That's what I wrote my book about. So I'm able to identify the position of the player first with my own ideology, and then I'm able to evaluate them with the measurement gauges that I have, and then that's when I'm able to project what I
Okay.
see.
Yeah, yeah, that makes complete sense. Complete sense. And when you are uh, so how much obviously things have evolved in the NBA and basketball in general, right? Like we got Steph Curry who just lights it up downtown. Um, but
Yeah.
how much has evolved from like we'll say that like the 90s, the mid 90s to today, like with the Jordan days, right?
Yeah. It's really evolved. I mean, you have it's like you look at cars, right? Go outside and look at the cars. Have cars evolved from 1998 to now? Yeah. Like in 1998, there was no rear view cameras in cars. There was no Wi-Fi in cars. There was no wireless chargers. There was there was no iPhones, right? So the world sheds its old skin all the time,
Uh-huh.
and sports is a replication of the world. The sports has to shed its old skin every so often in order to allow evolution to run its course. That's
Uh-huh.
just nature. None of evolution is inevitable. None of us can stop that,
Yep.
right? So the car that I had a 1998 Jeep Cherokee, right? And now I have a 2023 truck. My 2023 truck that I have right now is nothing like the 1998 Cherokee that I had, right?
Yep.
It's the same thing with basketball.
Yeah.
Players evolve. The players are different. Now, there's some players that are special cases,
Uh-huh.
like Michael Jordan, where some cars just are like wine, or like they age well. Like Michael Jordan, you can drop him in any era.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant, you can drop him in any era. LeBron James, Chris Webber, Isaiah Thomas, Jokic. Like some guys are just timeless.
Yeah.
But the generalization of sports, that there's an evolution that takes place.
Hmm. Yep, for sure. That makes sense. And I see that in training all the time too, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to evolve your training. Because if we have athletes working out like they did in the early 90s, even early 2000s, like we're just focused on strength stuff.
Yeah.
Basketball players aren't doing a whole lot of lifting at that point. Like there's just been so much evolution and understanding.
Yes.
Like it's more about athleticism than it is about brute strength.
Yes. Absolutely.
So for sure. All right. So let's talk a little bit about your book and
Sure.
what it's about and yeah, let's just dig into that.
Well, it's called the basketball position metric. The evolution is being televised, and it's really symbolic for me. So a lot of people don't know this about the book, but this thumbprint right here on the book is my actual thumbprint. This is my actual fingerprint, because I just felt like this book is about identity.
Mhm.
It's about identity. It's about uh, discovering what basketball players truly are, no matter what era they come from. And I think with today's game, there has to be some type of terminology update. We just can't continue to keep the 75-year language of these are five positions. That's like saying that there's only five cars in the world. That's it's impossible. And the way that basketball players play today, um, it's out of respect. I think we have to update the language to fit the way that they play. I think we're doing sports injustice if we do not find the right terminology to identify what we're watching. So saying that evolution is being televised means that we're watching it on TV. We're watching evolution take shape right in front of our eyes. So what I try to do in my book is really break down the anatomy of the game and rearrange some of the positions to help us understand evolution better.
That yeah, that's awesome. That makes complete sense, right? Like it's like we've already said, if we're staying the same, we're not growing.
We're not growing.
And the NBA has obviously changed and evolved, and
Yes,
it's a lot different than the Michael Jordan era. You,
totally different.
you just completely there's obviously there's a couple things that you can compare, but like it's not like just look at the players,
Yeah,
look at like you have to be developed as a basketball player. You have to do more than just play basketball. And I think a lot of this is something I see with a lot of younger basketball players. Like there's a lot of basketball still being played, right? Like I
mm,
I didn't really understand how much basketball was being played until last summer when some of these guys that were training with me had like no time to train and it was all just basketball. They
yeah,
they were just
yeah,
playing. They have no time to truly develop as an athlete. They're developing as a basketball player, but man, like if there was this just a little deeper understanding of the evolution of developing the athlete, and obviously you need that skill as a basketball player, but developing the athlete, the athleticism will truly take a basketball player to that next level.
absolutely. I totally agree.
And it's wild, man. Like I it's crazy. So we got winter season, right? High school basketball season. Then there's AAU like right after that.
Yeah,
And then there's summer ball and then
yeah,
another month AAU, then there's fall ball.
yeah.
Like there's
Can't
no
stop.
time. Yes, you're developing your basketball skill. Or, or maybe not because you're just playing games, right? Like
Yeah,
but when it comes time to developing the athleticism, like it's not, it's just there's so much behind in terms of that true development. Like we could I man, I had some guys last year. I had 5 guys last year that came to me not being able to dunk. Within like 6 weeks, they were all dunking
yeah.
because they actually spent time developing their athleticism.
You targeted their weakness and you strengthened it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was and it's simple to do because they hadn't really done it before.
Yeah,
Like I want to talk about how simple that is, but it like there's obviously things that you have to have in place and some type of journey to create that, but it's very simple. It's there's just so much evolution and like we've talked about the entire time, that evolution is just continuing to evolve, but there's so much that's stuck in the past when it comes to really developing athletes.
it is. And as soon as we can get more people to join hands and embrace the future, the better off we'll be. It's just so many people are stuck in their ways, especially when it comes to sports.
Yeah.
For me, I've dealt with so much pushback um, because I embrace evolution.
Uh-huh.
Some people like to just stay in their old template and just and live it out that way. I think everything needs an update. We have phones, we have TVs and computers. We're talking on a computer now. Everything updates over time. Like my laptop will update over time. It'll say it needs an update. It'll update and catch things up to par.
Yeah.
Why does that change with sports and people? People need to update, to stay up to par. You have to update your resume,
Yep.
and that's like life runs its course because of evolution, and
Sure.
nobody can stop it.
For sure. For sure. People are scared of change though.
They are, and I get it. I'm a human. There's some things that I don't like changing. Like my daughter's trying to teach me how to use TikTok, and I'm like stuck in my old man ways and don't want to do that. But evolution is going to just pass me by. It's
Yeah.
not going to have any sympathy because I want to be stuck in that in the 2000s. Like TikTok's not waiting on me or you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
going to keep running regardless, right? So you either get with the wave or the wave's going to run you over.
For sure. For sure. You're just gonna get left behind.
That's it.
Left behind. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, man, Rashad, like what? So if we got a young basketball player listening or watching this podcast, what are you telling them right now? What do they need to what do they need to focus on at this point?
Have an imagination. I think having an imagination is number one for me. And I tell this to my daughters. I tell this to my nieces, my nephews. Have an imagination of what you want to become, because the imagination allows you to take yourself and visualize yourself in that space. And then once you can visualize yourself doing something great, now the work follows that imagination. So imagine yourself playing in big arenas. Imagine yourself having that big job or getting that master's degree or whatever your imagination is. And then you put in the work to chase that imagination, and then it becomes a reality. That's what I would tell kids.
That's that's awesome. I love it. I love it. That's actually a piece of what we're doing in our 5-star formula, where we're helping these athletes understand that the vision, they have a big vision, right? Have a
Yeah.
big vision and chase it.
Yeah.
Like,
A vision.
yeah.
A
It's,
vision. I had a vision of writing a book. I was like, I can see it. I saw this book before I wrote a word. I can see it. I could see the fingerprint. I could see the book cover. And then I started doing the work for it to manifest.
yeah,
And then it became a reality.
yeah,
But I had to visualize it first before I can actually write one word down on paper.
for sure. For sure. And there, I mean, you said something on top of that, right? The vision, having that vision, but then putting in the work to do it.
Yep, absolutely.
Like those are two really big things that have to be done to actually achieve what you truly want to achieve.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. That was amazing advice. Now, go ahead. Where can people get your book? How can people
Yeah,
connect with you? Like what just
I'll give all my socials and everything.
okay, okay.
You can find me on Twitter at RP3 Natural. You can find me on Instagram at Rashad Phillips 2319. You can purchase my book, The Evolution Is Being Televised. Just go to weberpublishinggroup.com. You can purchase this book. It's a fantastic read. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this book. So far, all the reviews that I've received from people, they just absolutely love it. And again, I just, thank you for having me, John. It was a pleasure, and can't wait to do it again.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you, Rashad. I appreciate it. Hey, and if you guys go ahead, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Connect with me. If you need anything else, just reach out. I'm right here. All
Talk
right.
soon.
All right. Thanks, Rashad. Have a good one.